Have you ever wondered why the multiple choice questions in the IELTS listening test are often the hardest to deal with? Let me show you why. IELTS listening multiple choice questions require you to listen to audio, read the options at the same time, and think about them all at once. So basically you are juggling three things at the same time. It's not easy, is it? I watched a lot of videos online about cracking multiple choice questions on the IELTS listening test. However, most of them don't really dive into the practical skills you need to solve these questions, like note-taking techniques and handling distractions. In this video, I'm going to do just that. I'll not only share some practical tips but also show you exactly how I handle these questions. I'll cover how to take effective notes, avoid distractions, and consistently pick the right answer from the multiple options. And since I've taken the IELTS exam multiple times and consistently scored a band 9, never dropping below an 8.5, you can trust these methods actually work. Let's dive in. Welcome IELTS champions. Today we are diving into the art of tackling multiple choice questions on the IELTS listening test. So let's get started. For this video, we will be using the questions 21 to 26 from the Cambridge IELTS 17 Test 1 that focuses on the topic work experience for veterinary science students as our example. Let's get started. So first things first. In the IELTS listening test, you'll usually hear an introduction that gives you a clue about what the entire section is about. This overview generally covers the whole of the listening part, not just the segment of questions you are about to answer. For instance, if part 2 of the listening test is divided into two subparts like question 11 to 15 and 16 to 20, the introduction will tell you what question 11 to 20 are about, not just 11 to 15 or 16 to 20. Let me give you an example to make this even clearer.
Part 3. You will hear two veterinary science students called Diana and Tim discussing their work placements and their course modules.
So for this part, it mentions work placements and course modules. This means we can expect questions 21 to 26 to be about work placements and question 27 to 30 to be about the course module. Now, why this is important? Because research shows that you likely get better results if your brain is prepared for the task ahead. So you want to make sure your brain is ready for what's coming. In this case, we will be expecting Diana and Tom discussing their work placements from questions 21 to 26. So after the introduction, you'll get a short amount of time to read the question before the listening starts.
First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26.
It's crucial you use this time wisely because you only have enough time to go through the questions and options. In this example, you just have 40 seconds to read 6 questions and 18 options. That's a lot to process in a short amount of time. So you need a good strategy to make most of it. Everyone is different, but I'll share what works for me. During this time, I focus on reading and understanding the questions carefully without spending too much time on the options. As I go through the options, I underline the keywords that I think will help me find the answers quickly. So let's do this together. Let's take a look at question 21. What problem did both Diana and Tim have when arranging their work experience? Here, we need to pay close attention to the problem that both Diana and Tim faced when arranging their work experience. This is a key point where you can easily get tripped up. You might hear some issues that only Diana had and only Tim had, but we need to focus on what was a common problem for both of them. So our options are make initial contact with suitable farms, organizing transport to and from the farm, and finding placement for the required length of time. Now that we know our question, when reading the options, I'll underline the words initial contact, transport, and required length. That's it. Keep this in mind when we do our listening practice later in this video. Before we move on to our next questions, let me give you some bonus tips. When you listen to the audio, don't get too hung up on the exact words in the options, since the speaker might use synonyms or different phrasing. For instance, instead of saying make initial contact with the farm, they might say something like reach out to the farm first or get in touch with the farm initially. Another tip is start eliminating options as you realize they are no longer relevant. If you hear Tim talking about transport issues but Diana does not, then you can eliminate option B because we are looking for an issue that is common to both of them. Now keep in mind that you're likely to hear all the options in the audio, but they may not be presented in the same order as you see them on the paper. So it's important to focus on understanding what the speaker is saying rather than fixating on the order of the options. Alright, now let's continue to our next question. Question 22 asks, Tim was pleased to be able to help. So this question is straightforward because we are simply looking for what made Tim happy about helping someone or something similar. Here are the options. A lamb that had a broken leg, a sheep that was having difficulty giving birth, or a newly born lamb that was having trouble feeding. Now, in these options, I have highlighted the words that can help us find the answer. So it could be lamb, broken leg, sheep, difficulty giving birth, newly born lamb, trouble feeding. So I'll be focusing on these aspects. Another important tip is to be cautious of hearing the same words in the audio with different meanings. This can be a trap. For instance, you might hear something like, I was so happy to see a newly born lamb who had no trouble feeding. This sentence uses almost the same words as in the options, but the addition of no word changes the meaning entirely. This kind of trap is common, so it's crucial to not just focus on the words, but also understand the speaker's meaning. Remember, the listening test isn't always straightforward. You likely hear synonyms or slight variations. So if you hear exactly the same words in the MCQs, it could be a trap and you might miss something important. Let's move on to the next question. Diana says the sheep on her farm. As we expect Diana to talk about the sheep on her farm, here's a helpful tip. When you're transitioning to the next question, the audio typically provides a hint or phrase that links to the upcoming question. It's important to pay attention to these markers so you stay on the track during the listening test. For instance, in our specific audio, when moving from question 22 to 23, Diana might say something like,
Yes, my farm had sheep too.
Now, this serves as a clear hint to listen closely for the answer related to the sheep on her farm. If for any reason you missed the answer to the previous question, don't get stuck on it. Make a note to revisit it later and move on to the next question. This ensures you keep up with the pace of the audio and don't miss out on any answers. Now let's look at the options. So we've got A, were of different varieties, B, were mainly reared for their meat, and C, had better quality wool than sheep on the hills. And the keywords I've highlighted here are different varieties, reared for their meat, better quality of wool, hills. Expecting these words will help me find the answer. Alright, here are rest of the questions and their options. So I have highlighted the keywords that I believe will help me find the correct answers. Now I'm going to play the audio. As we listen, I want you to take notes and identify the correct answers. But before we do that, here are some tips on how to take effective notes for you. So let's look at some tips on how to take effective notes on the IELTS listening test. So my number one tip is focus on keywords. So as you listen, jot down keywords or short phrases that relate to the questions and options. These are crucial for quickly identifying the correct answer later. Number 2, abbreviate. Use abbreviations or symbols to speed up your note taking. For example, you could write W for with and BC for because. No one's gonna look at your notes. Don't worry about bad handwriting. As long as you can read it and understand, it's fine. Practice as much as you can because this is going to build a habit of taking effective notes on the IELTS listening test. Next tip, numbers and symbols. Numbers and symbols are a useful tool to keep your notes organized and easy to refer back to during the IELTS listening test. When I asked my students to take notes, I generally see that their notes are all over the place. They mix up different topics and different conversations in the listening test. And what it does is, when they refer back to their notes, they themselves are not able to identify what they have written here. So that's why I've always encouraged students to use numbers and symbols to organize their notes so that when they refer back to their notes, they can actually identify what they have written. Imagine you're listening to information about different animals on the farm. Instead of writing everything in one long paragraph, I'd encourage you to use bullet points or numbers to separate each type of animal. For example, if the speaker is talking about cows, you can say mainly used for milk production, treated with antibiotics recently. And if it's sheep, you could say breed, wool for carpets. So by using these bullet points or numbers, you keep details about cows from the details about sheep. This way, when you need to find information quickly during your test, you can easily locate what you wrote about each animal without getting confused in different sentences. So during the test, if you're taking notes on different topics like animals, supplements, or problems mentioned, use bullet points or numbers to organize your notes effectively. It helps in quickly finding specific details when you need to refer back to them later. My next tip is short phrases. Capture main ideas or actions in short phrases. Avoid writing full sentences to save time and capture key information. For example, if you hear Tim saying, "I have had issues traveling to my farm," you can simply write, "Tim, travel issues." Remember, the goal is to capture enough information to identify the correct answers without getting bogged down in writing too much detail. Alright, let's start the audio and work together to find the answers while practicing our note-taking skills.
Part 3. You will hear two veterinary science students called Diana and Tim discussing their work placements and their course modules. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
So, Tim, we have to do a short summary of our work experience on a farm.
Right. My farm was great, but arranging the work experience was hard. One problem was it was miles away and I don't drive. And also, I'd really wanted a placement for a month, but I could only get one for 2 weeks.
I was lucky. The farmer let me stay on the farm, so I didn't have to travel. But finding the right sort of farm to apply to wasn't easy.
No, they don't seem to have websites, do they? I found mine through a friend of my mother's, but it wasn't easy.
No.
My farm was mostly livestock, especially sheep. I really enjoyed helping out with them. I was up most of one night helping a sheep deliver a lamb.
On your own?
No, the farmer was there, and he told me what to do. It wasn't a straightforward birth, but I managed. It was a great feeling to see the lamb stagger to its feet and start feeding almost straight away, and to know that it was okay. Then another time, a lamb had broken its leg, and they got the vet in to set it, and he talked me through what he was doing. That was really useful.
Yes, my farm had sheep too. The farm was in a valley and they had a lowland breed called Suffolks, although the farmer said they'd had other breeds in the past.
So were they bred for their meat?
Mostly, yes. They're quite big and solid.
My farm was up in the hills and they had a different breed of sheep. They were Cheviots.
Oh, I heard their wool's really sought after.
Yes, it's very hard wearing. And they use it for carpets.
Right.
I was interested in the amount of supplements they add to animals' feed nowadays. Like, Even the chickens got extra vitamins and electrolytes in their feed.
Yes, I found that too. And they're not cheap. But my farmer said some are overpriced for what they are, and he didn't give them as a matter of routine, just at times when the chickens seemed to particularly require them.
Yes, mine said the same. He said certain breeds of chickens might need more supplements than the others, but the cheap and expensive ones are all basically the same. So, did your farm have any other livestock, Diana?
Yes, dairy cows. I made a really embarrassing mistake when I was working in the milk shed. Some cows had been treated with antibiotics, so their milk wasn't suitable for human consumption, and it had to be put in a separate container. But I got mixed up, and I poured some milk from the wrong cow in with the milk for humans, so the whole lot had to be thrown away. The farmer wasn't too happy with me.
I asked my farmer how much he depended on the vet to deal with health problems. I'd read reports that the livestock's health is being affected as farmers are under pressure to increase production. Well, he didn't agree with that, but he said that actually some of the stuff the vets do, like minor operations, he'd be quite capable of doing himself.
Yeah, my farmer said the same, but he reckons vet skills are still needed.
Alright, let's review how we did and go over the correct answers for each question. Question 21. Correct answer is A. Make initial contact with suitable farm. Both Diana and Tim faced challenges in making initial contact with suitable farm for their work experience placements. That's why the correct answer is A. Question 22. Correct answer is B. A sheep that was having difficulty giving birth. As Tim expressed satisfaction in assisting a sheep that was experiencing difficulties during birth. Question 23. Correct answer is B. As Diana mentioned that sheep on her farm, particularly the Suffolk breed, were primarily raised for meat production. Question 24. Correct answer is A. These should only be given if specifically needed. And both Tim and Diana emphasized that supplements for animals, including chickens, should only be administered when specifically required. Question 25. Correct answer is C. She made a mistake when storing milk. Diana inadvertently mixed milk from cows treated with antibiotics with milk intended for human consumption, leading to all the milk being discarded. Question 26. And the correct answer is C. Some jobs could be done by farmers rather than by a vet, and both farmers suggested that certain tasks traditionally handled by vets could be performed by farmers themselves, promoting self-sufficiency. Alright, let's recap the tips discussed in today's video. So number 1 is, listen carefully to the introduction to grasp the main topic of the entire section. Take advantage of the time given before the audio starts to read the questions thoroughly. Underline important words in the answer options to help you focus during the listening test. Be cautious of synonyms or different ways of saying things that might be used instead of the exact words given in the options. Begin ruling out options based on the information you hear in the audio. This can help you narrow down the correct answers more efficiently. Use bullet points, abbreviations, or short phrases to organize your notes while listening. This method will help you capture key details without getting overwhelmed by writing too much. Remember, mastering these skills requires practice. Stay concentrated, believe in your preparation, and face each question confidently. Your persistence and commitment will lead to success in your IELTS listening test. Keep aiming for improvement and keep up the good work. If you found these tips helpful, please like, share, and subscribe for more helpful advice and practice resources. Best of luck with your studies and future tests. I'll see you guys in another video.